I get way too much credit for what was a tremendous group effort. Family is my superpower. It is my everything. I am the culmination of their support. I could have done none of this without my husband, my children, my brothers and sisters, my mother and father, my mother-in-law, and my extended family, who have always given me the strength to go farther.
Jack and Nancy Flannery exemplified servant leadership, commitment to our community, and the YMCA's core values of honesty, caring, respect, and responsibility. For those reasons and more, the Lawrence County YMCA is pleased to honor their legacies with an annual award. This year's recipient is Dr. Elizabeth Piccione. Dr. Piccione has shown exceptional leadership and dedication in improving healthcare in our region as both a cardiologist and the president of UPMC, Jameson, and Horizon. Her vision and passion of world-class patient-focused community healthcare continues to enrich the daily lives of residents throughout our region.
We're all, Beth and I are third generation here, and our grandparents on all sides came to the United States with nothing, but the one thing that they kept was the family, that family unit close, and that goes back to the Sunday meals that I was talking about. That was the entire family coming together. So that was, that was the whole team, the superpower. So it was never just one person helping another person, it was the whole tribe, if you will.
And that's what we have. I mean, there's nothing more cherished and wonderful in my memories is that Sunday when they're all together, everybody's helping in some manner or whatnot. Who's doing the food? Who's doing this? Who's helping grandma? The grandchildren setting the table. And when we sit down to eat, everyone's, there's a little bit of chaos and whatnot, but it's great chaos, good chaos.
Why we feel that way, it just must be a result of Tom and Diane and the way we were raised. So we're definitely a unit. Sometimes I've described our family as an amoeba. When one goes this way, we all shift and go that way too. And so that's kind of how we work.
I tease my employees now. I always say, okay, what's your superpower? Okay. My superpower is my family. And no matter where you go in the world or whatever riches you have otherwise, there's nothing that can compare to the stability, the strength that your family gives you. And we have a unique family in that within Newcastle and the surrounding area, I have 100 people that I could count on. If I go 2 hours away, I'd have no one.
We just were raised understanding what's important in life, and I think it does bring a lot of happiness, especially as you get older, because we have the proper perspective about how to appreciate what we have. And we certainly do appreciate each other.
Mikey was 3 when I had my twins, and I had a very serious and difficult pregnancy with the twins. I was in the hospital for over 70 days.
I remember going into the hospital that night and seeing Dr. Piccione, and when he, they do like a swab there, and he kind of just looked at me, and so we were expecting the worst. We went down to, they sent us down to the high-risk doctor, and they were like, this is not good, and you're probably going to be leaving here and not,
Beth was counseled to maybe give up the pregnancies because of the dangers involved in it, and she would not even consider that. And I remember her laying in the hospital bed, and it was there were the very first type of computerized handheld computers were available then, and she would sit there in her bed trying to find all kinds of research to understand what was happening to her and what she needed to do to give the children a chance to survive. She would have my mother go to the library and print out articles for her, so she's laying in bed taking care of herself and the children inside of her, but also trying to study and learn how to make sure that she can carry the kids long enough so that they have a good chance once they were born.
She wasn't going to let the worst happen. She was going to figure out a way to give these children a fighting chance, and she did it. And you look at them, and it is nothing short of a miracle, and that's because of what their mom did for them. I mean, she would sacrifice and do anything from that for them, as you know, a lot of mothers would, but what she did is incredible.
And I never spent one single night alone because everybody came and took their turn and everybody stayed with me and I was never alone.
That was impressive to a lot of people who aren't familiar with, maybe the way we were brought up and our families and stuff like that. And so that people noticed that about the support we had.
Reiterated to everyone just how much family means and what you would do for your family.
To bring a little light to it all, how Beth introduced me to Michael is a pretty funny story. And to be honest, in most families, when you introduce your boyfriend to someone, it's at a family gathering or a picnic. But because we're so close and so comfortable with each other, Beth introduced me to Michael in my labor and delivery room. So you can only imagine. Needless to say, Michael was a really good sport about it, and quite honestly, in between contractions, it kind of gave me a break. Absolutely, completely normal in our family.
She was always very smart. I seem to remember turning a corner, I don't know if it was junior high or after, but I don't think she ever got a B after that point. That's when we all realized, we all are a little bit smart, but she's very smart. But aside from that, she was very normal.
She was a hard worker, even as a young child. Anything she put her mind to doing, she did it, and she did it completely. For instance, if she had a math test, she was in her room with her math book, and she would work every problem over and over, even though she knew how to do it. She'd do it over and over and over again. She was amazing that way.
Unbelievably smart. Mm-hmm. She's also very well-rounded, though, because as brilliant as she is, she's also very much a normal person, and so it makes her a lot of fun to be around.
So when I would wake up with a nightmare, I was afraid to go past the steps into my parents' room. So then inevitably I would go to Beth, who was the oldest, and slept with her many, many nights after bad dreams. However, Beth took up the entire bed. So even today as an adult, I sleep very narrowly because I learned from a very young age to survive that I had to sleep on just a small section of the bed. But she always welcomed me, which was really sweet.
So she would come to my house. I'd invite her over for a play date. And I'd have the Barbies out, or the baby dolls or board games, whatever we were going to do. And she would immediately gravitate to any reading material that was out and visible. And it didn't matter what it was. It could have been a sailboat racing magazine of my father's, or it could have been the newspaper, or a romance novel. It didn't matter what it was. I think one time she actually picked up a user manual for an appliance. I mean, she couldn't help herself. She would pick it up, read it, and I would be sitting there with the Barbie doll, waiting for her to play.
We do call her the crazy professor because she can read and carry a conversation on at the same time. But it's tough. She's just brilliant and the best person.
So when I was in graduate school at the University of Pittsburgh, Beth and my sister-in-law Janine and brother-in-law Doug and I all lived together in South Oakland. Just like she is in her professional life, she's very intense. She was very intense with her medical school, but when she got home, all bets were off, right? Oftentimes, I think I heard Matthew say she's late because, it doesn't matter, I'll get there when I get there. The problem with that in Oakland, if you're aware, is if you don't leave enough time, you're not going to find a parking spot. So she would just park wherever convenient so she could get into the hospital on time and threw the parking tickets on the floorboard. So I came home from school one day and there is a police vehicle parked in front of our place. And I got out and she said, "Do you know Beth Piccione?" And I said, "Well, yeah." She said, "Okay, well, we're here to put a boot on her car." So I went in the house, Beth sleeping on the couch. I said, "Hey, the cops are here to put a boot on your car." She said, "Well, it's parked out back. Let them put the boot on it." So I looked out back and the car's not there. I said, "Beth, your car is not out back." She's like, "Yes, it is. That's where I parked it." She got up and looked and she said, oh my goodness, somebody stole Betsy. Someone stole the car. We went to the impound lot. They found it a couple of days later up on blocks. I thought we were going to retrieve the car. She just wanted to get her textbooks and things out of it and just left the car. So she didn't have to pay for the parking tickets or the impound. She just traded this old beater car for the fines.
Do you know how many tickets she had?
It was a lot. I would, if I had to guess and do an over and under, I'd say 50.
And the one thing I can tell you about Beth is anytime she gets knocked down, she gets right back up. The most recent example of that is that last winter we went to Mexico, all of us together on a vacation. And we got there, first day, we're all so excited to be there. And Beth puts her suit on, got her big beach bag all filled up, and beautiful sun hat and flip-flops. And we go down to the beach, and Beth kind of jogs a little bit out into the ocean, gets about knee deep, and she turns around and she looks back at the beautiful resort that we're staying at. And the next thing I know, this powerful Pacific Ocean wave comes barreling in and smacks Beth right in the back, and she goes flying, hands and feet up in the air, totally under the water. Her beach bag's being washed back out into the ocean, hat in the surf. People are literally on the beach scurrying around, grabbing her shoes, and in amazement, I watched her. She turned immediately around and she darted right back out into that ocean as fast as she could and dives into the next, head first dives right into the next biggest wave that she could find and just starts paddling out as far as she could out into the ocean. And that's the Beth I know. You know, knock her down, she'll get right back up.
Starting from my parents, who didn't push me into medicine, but just pushed me to do my best. Started out in engineering and then realized that I didn't really like that. It was too cut and dry. I had a job in the nurses, in the infirmary at Rensselaer as a nursing assistant. And it's really there that I realized I really liked people. I liked interacting with people, and I liked helping people. And oh, by the way, there's a big scientific component to this. And that's really when I started thinking about going into medicine, and subsequently went to medical school. And while I was in medical school and training, and even once I was done with my cardiology training, I just wanted to be a doctor and take care of people.
And that's like the innate part. That's the part that really you can't teach. I mean, they try to teach some of these things, but I mean, she's got a leg up just naturally with that aspect of just caring for humanity and wanting to be able to give people answers to questions that I think in her heart she knows that there's not a lot of other people that are going to be able to do this, make this connection with the patient and give them the answer. So if she kind of just stayed in her lane, cardiology, and sent the patient on their way, maybe nobody else is going to make that connection for them. So I think it's a genuine caring. I mean, I think that's what makes her special.
When she really figures out problems that people haven't had figured out before, they've seen multiple providers maybe, and they come in, but I really think her listening, she really listens. She doesn't rush through any patient visits.
You know, not everybody has the greatest bedside manner like Beth does, but she's obviously way up there in that regard. She's a good human being. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to.
She's always in the moment. When she's talking, she's always connecting to the situation. And I think that's one of her brilliant talents, along with everything else that we would say she's brilliant at.
You know, my father was diagnosed with heart disease at 42. He was transplanted at 69. So in those years in between, we went through various different treatments and medications and ups and downs and surgeries and defibrillators and all different kinds of treatment pathways. And then finally transplant. This September will be 10 years that he had a successful transplant. And so when you walk that journey with somebody that you love, who has a chronic illness, you learn a lot of things. You learn how to live in the unknown. You learn how to not take things for granted. But it also, again, gave me a tremendous perspective of what people have to go through to access help. And, those are lessons I've always carried with me throughout my career.
I think she always looks at medicine and healthcare like, well, how did this roll out with my father? How would this be if I'm the patient? And she treats all of her patients and now in an executive kind of role treats the community as her patient.
When we were getting done, her fellowship director actually moved on to the Mayo Clinic and approached her about, coming to the Mayo Clinic, which is the #1 hospital in the world. So yeah, there was a lot of opportunities. I mean, she was a superstar too, and a female, which there were not a lot of. So she could have had her pick: Cleveland Clinic, Mayo Clinic, anything she wanted to do. Yeah.
Coming out of cardiology training as a female cardiologist, Beth could virtually have gone anywhere to be a physician, and she chose to come back to Newcastle. Frankly, she probably could have got paid twice as much to go to a major metropolitan city and be a cardiologist. I think, again, the lens of Beth is really about doing the right thing in her family, and this is where that is. And
I had joined UPMC in 2011, and I was working primarily in Mercer County. And then in 2016, I came back to UPMC Jameson. My mentor, Dr. June Lee, who was at the time running cardiovascular services for UPMC, called me and said, Beth, you know UPMC and you've been at Jameson. You're the only physician that we have that has that experience. Would you go back and head up our cardiovascular area? And I said, I will. I said, but on one condition, I want to stay in Newcastle. I knew that there was going to be work to be done, and I said, so I want to be only at Jameson. I don't want to be traveling anymore. I just want to be at Jameson. And he says, okay, deal.
And this is one of her greatest strengths, right? Because I think that if somebody rises in health administration from a background where they've only known very large academic medical centers, I think that they can struggle to see the needs and understand the potential solutions of smaller hospitals and smaller communities. Beth comes at it with a background in those smaller communities, really clear-eyed about what their needs are, what potential solutions will work, and then has, moved into bigger and more comprehensive care settings. And I think that she probably, better than anybody else in the HVI, really understands how critical regional care is.
She was probably the cohesive element that made that merger occur. Looking at what were the needs of the patients of the community of Lawrence County and who would be best suited to provide those. And she was working at that time at UPMC. And again, I can't tell you how she was the glue that held us all together.
The merger was delayed for a variety of mostly political reasons. And during that time, I really got a sense of, okay, what do I want this to be? And what are we going to be able to do? And, I never got the memo of I can't do something. And so when I thought about people coming into the hospital when they need surgery, they have to get an EKG, they have to get an x-ray, they have to get labs. And we track that through. You're walking 1.5 miles in different directions in the hospital. Nothing about it was user-friendly. And so I kept thinking, wouldn't it be great to just have all things cardiovascular in one place, just easily accessible? It is the #1 diagnosis for both women and men. So cardiovascular disease will affect everybody. So I put together a proposal, complete with tabs, pictures of where things were, and had it really ready to go. And when the merger closed, the hospital executives, of which I was not one at the time, the hospital executives said, geez, we want a project. And they're like, we want to do something and make a big splash. And I happened to hear that. I walked in the room with my binder and pictures and was like, here, and it was ready to go. And so we were the very first project, the Heart and Vascular Institute at Jameson, and I think it's achieved its goals.
Her core values has always been about the residents of Lawrence County and securing that this community was going to get the best health care, both physician-wise, dollar-wise, and service-wise. She became that person.
When she told me that she was going to go into the hospital administration, of course I was devastated to lose her, but I said, it's for the greater good. She can really affect the whole community and not just one person at a time. And she really did do that as our administrator. I mean, she literally, I feel, saved the hospital and the healthcare of this community.
I mean, I had mixed emotions. I think she was the right person to lead the institution, but we miss her on the clinical end, and it's a trade-off. So we missed having her around, going over cases, sharing patients, but the institution needed her in that role. So
one of the things I think she does incredibly well that I think a lot of us struggle to do well is she always sets the right priorities. So it's true, when you're in a hospital leadership role, you're beholden to a lot of different people or to a lot of different, regulatory agencies, and you have to prioritize things. And I think Beth has always been really clear-sighted in making sure that she's putting the patient care part of things at the highest priority. And that has really been borne out in the success that she has had.
There's a lot of interplay between UPMC Passivant, UPMC Jameson, and Horizon. We're only 40 minutes from that facility. And so we share doctors, we share staff, we share resources. By Beth having oversight of that hospital, it's only going to help strengthen the services that we have here. She'll help to send some doctors from there down here for services where we have gaps or maybe vacancies for physicians. We'll exchange staff back and forth. I think by Beth having a strong position there, again, it only strengthens what we have here.
Through all of this, Jameson has only risen. We've added services, we've added capacity. This is the UPMC Acute Care Community Hospital that is our base of operations between Passivant and Hammett. And so that's here, and that's going to stay here, and it's going to continue to grow. And so, again, I think over time we'll win people over because they'll see that this isn't some random community hospital. This is a UPMC hospital, and those letters mean something. We're not going to slap our name on something if it's not high quality, continuous improvement, patient-centered care. And it's what I'm most proud of. Not only are we doing well now, we're going to continue to do well into the future. I don't and have never subscribed to the, if it's good, it can't be in Newcastle.
It was hard. She had a lot of hard years to get where she is, and we're all benefiting from her sacrifice.
It's just, she's never off. But Beth is truly she's love and she's joy. And if you're around her, you feel that. And I know that that's what her family and her children more than anyone feel. They know that their mom loves them so much and would sacrifice anything for them. And that's why they're all so close.
I think she's a really good mom. Sometimes I know when I was younger, it was tough for her because I think she got a little sad that she wasn't always there because she was working a lot. But as I get older, I really appreciate and see how much her work ethic and her dedication. I mean, you said how does she have that much energy? She barely sleeps. But yeah, I think she's just a really good person.
We've always had real strong relationships. She's caring, loving, but as you said, chill. I mean, super chill. My dad's polar opposite. I'm a mom's boy. I love my mom. So if you look at my phone calls, more than half of them, 70% of them are all my mom.
I think she's probably one of the strongest people I know in this world. And I think being around my mom, I've seen her in times where doctors have been rude to her and people have tried to put her down. And her biggest thing is she always stays strong. I mean, I really can't think of a person that has been through more in their entire life with like our birth and with her job and people, you know, as being one of the only females who's definitely looked down on. And I love that she was able to just overcome that. And like, she's such a boss and she leads, she's just amazing, and she can command a room and she can command doctors, and I just love her work ethic and how she's brought herself up while also being such an amazing mother.
My husband and I started dating when I was 24, and I'm 53 now. We've been together since, and he has been such a overwhelming and tremendous support to me. It is not easy to have a wife that works so much, who is pulled in different directions, who isn't able to maybe do all the things that and take care of things at home. A lot of that fell to him. I mean, would not be able to do 1/4 of the things I've been able to do without my husband's support, and he has been tirelessly supportive of me from day one. And my brothers and sisters are there for me in a moment's notice. And I hit the mother-in-law jackpot. I've always told people you don't want to be afraid and you don't want fear to limit you and what you can do and the impact you can have. So this is an opportunity for me to increase my scope and increase my influence, and so I'm excited about that.
Even with her moving on the passive end, I know her and I know how deep her roots in this community are. She will never leave this community in any meaningful way. She is always going to be involved here. She's always going to be an advocate for what happens here. You know, I don't know that there's a stronger advocate I've ever met.
Like I said, it's my superpower. So I will never leave my superpower. Family is my superpower. It is my everything. I am the culmination of their support